Stephanie Andino was my first recruit in Sioux City, Iowa. And I'll tell you how I met the Marines in a little while. But back in 1976, we had been transferred from Minneapolis to Sioux City, Iowa with George's job. And when we lived in Minneapolis, I was a professional model. George and I got married in 1958. Yes. Yeah, 1958 is when we got married. And I became a professional model in probably about 63 or 64. I had 3 daughters, and then decided I needed to have something to do. So I went to work as a model. I didn't know that much about it, but I figured if I pretended that I did, maybe I could do it. And it worked. So I was just barely tall enough to be a fashion model. I lied a little bit about my age, not my age, but my height. You had to be 5'7" minimum, and I was like 5'6" and 3/4. So I always said I was 5'7". I even still believe it today. So I did that for 8 years. I loved it. I loved being a professional model. I love the clothes. Don't you love clothes? Never had enough money to buy the clothes that I modeled, but I did love the clothes. And then George got transferred to Sioux City, Iowa. And you know, God really does have a plan for your life, doesn't he? Because I was really upset about being transferred from Minneapolis to Sioux City, Iowa. And those of you who know Minneapolis know it's a huge city with lots of culture. The Guthrie Theater, the Walker Art Center, lots of fashion. One of the biggest cities in the Midwest next to Chicago. And I loved it there. My family was there. And Sioux City, Iowa, to me, was foreign. It was a farming community. I'd never been on a farm. I never saw a cow or a pig. I never thought about where it came from. I didn't really think about farming, the farming community. And I wasn't real happy about moving to Sioux City, Iowa, but you know what? They are the best people in the whole world. And if George had not been transferred from Minneapolis to Sioux City, Iowa, I would have never began my Mary Kay career ever. Because when we lived in Minneapolis, one of the models, her name was Kathy Peterson, they gave me a going away party when we got transferred. And we were at the party and we were sitting there talking, and Kathy said to me, "You know what, Marlys? You're not going to be able to be a professional model in Sioux City, Iowa. Why don't you get into Mary Kay?" And I said, "No, I don't want to do that. Maybe I could do a TV show there because it's a smaller market." And she said, "Well, you should really look at Mary Kay." But you know what? She never called me back. She never recontacted me. And so for 3.5 years, I did do a television show in Sioux City, Iowa, a television talk show, which was a great growing experience for me. It taught me so much about people and how to make people feel comfortable. It was just what I needed to learn from Mary Kay. And I did that TV show for 3.5 years, and I went to work for a bank, and then Shirley Hutton called me from Minneapolis and said, "I was at a party the other night, Marlys, and a mutual friend of ours, Marilyn Sunberg, who was a fashion coordinator for one of the stores, a store similar to Nan's store that she had in Vermont, said to me," I said to her, "Who do you know in Iowa that would be good in Mary Kay?" And that fashion coordinator said, "Marlys Skillings moved to Iowa 4 years ago and she'd be great." So Shirley called me, and you know that I was a referral to Shirley Hutton. Wow. You need to ask for referrals. You truly, really do. I wasn't interested at all. You know, I was kind of like a local celebrity. The directors from Sioux City, Iowa will tell you that. Kind of like a local celebrity. It was really kind of neat. You know, everybody knew who I was. And I wasn't one to sell cosmetics. I never even thought of myself as a salesperson. But she was very persistent. She was politely persistent. She talked me into having a Mary Kay facial. She came to Sioux City in her pink Cadillac with her fur coats and her diamonds and all that stuff. And her fake fingernails. And she was beautiful. She was. And she conducted a skincare class at my house, and I was so impressed by the professionalism of it. That she wasn't pushy. That she taught my friends about skincare and makeup. And I was excited. And then she went through the marketing plan for Mary Kay. because I was not interested in selling the product. She went through the marketing plan, and a light bulb went off in my head. She left me information about the company. And when she left, I was excited. I was going to be a Mary Kay beauty consultant. George was on a business trip at the time. And he always says I should have never gone out of town. You believe everything everybody tells you. You're so naive, Marlys. And he was really, really adamant. Oh, he's hiding back. He's changed a lot. I kept putting the information in front of him. He was very negative. You don't want to do that. You have a good job. Why would you want to change? You know, all that stuff. But she kept calling every Saturday. She would call and say, did you send in that agreement yet? You know, I didn't want to tell her that. He wouldn't let me. I was this independent woman, professional. But I knew I could do it without his consent. But I needed his support. I knew I would never be successful without that support. And so, finally one Saturday she called, George answered the phone. She convinced him that I should give this a try, and I did. It was the best thing that ever happened to our whole family. And you're a family to me. You know that, each and every one of you. But I thought it was important that you knew how this all started. So I became a director in 9 months. I had a full-time job. How many of you here have full-time jobs other than Mary Kay? Because you know Mary Kay is a full-time job if you're a Mary Kay director. But I had a full-time job when I started my Mary Kay business. So I couldn't quit that job. We kind of needed that extra income. So I kept the job. And I did 2 Mary Kay skincare classes a week. But I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to be a Mary Kay director. I knew that I wanted to be a national sales director. Now, not everybody knows that when they start in Mary Kay, and that's okay. But I knew it from the beginning. I was ready. I was 36 years old. I had had lots of other careers before Mary Kay, and they prepared me for this. So I knew from the very beginning that my goal would be national sales director. I did 2 skincare classes a week, and I found prospective people at every single one. I talked to everyone I knew. I was good at recruiting, but I wasn't any better than anybody else in this room. It's just that I probably talked to a lot more people than many of you do. I didn't talk to 2 people a week, I talked to 2 or 3 a day. Seriously. And I had a plan. I think Alice talked about that a little bit. I had a plan. Because my time was limited, I had to make the most of that time. At the skincare classes, as I was showing them how to use the product, I was not only planting the seeds for the benefits of the Mary Kay skincare program, I was planting the seeds for the Mary Kay career and what it could do for you. I've never been pushy or overwhelming to people, overbearing. I just planted lots of seeds, and the thing that made me so successful so quickly was that I was so good at follow-up. And that's what it takes. It doesn't do you any good to talk to lots of people if you don't follow up, and if you don't do it immediately. You can't wait a week or 2 to follow up. And I had my program, and the way it worked, I had my list of prospective recruits. I knew I could only work with 5 people at a time. So those 5 people at the top of my list were the people that had had the facial. I'd given them the information about the company. I'd called them back. I sat down and bought them lunch and went through the marketing plan. I learned that marketing plan. And I also learned all the stories in Mary Kay of all the very successful women in Mary Kay. Because a lot of people didn't relate to me. In Sioux City, Iowa, I had a television show. So you would think it would be easier to recruit, but it really wasn't. Because they would say to me, oh yeah, you can do it. You were on TV. They think you can do anything if you were on TV, you know. You were on TV, you can do it, but I could never do that. So I would then tell them about Ruby Lee. If they were shy, I would tell them about Ruby Lee and how she was so shy. And the only reason she got into Mary Kay was not to win pink Cadillacs, or make lots of money, or win diamond rings. She got into Mary Kay to build her self-confidence. And now she's a national sales director. And I would give them the picture of Ruby Lee and her story. I guess I don't have that book anymore about nationals, but you can get it off the internet, can't you? Or if it was somebody that was a single parent, and they would say to me, well, sure, you can do that. You have a supportive husband. You have George. I don't have a George. So I would tell them about Nancy Tejan, who was a single parent with 2 kids and became a Mary Kay beauty consultant so that she could give her children a better life. I learned all the stories. Now there's so many, you couldn't do that. But find out where her background lies and what her needs are and what she's looking for. And then show her the person in Mary Kay who's very successful that she can relate to if she doesn't relate to you. So I had the list of prospective recruits, did my 2 skincare classes a week, found the people that I wanted to recruit at those skincare classes, did the follow-up right away, had the people top 5 at the top of my list. If they couldn't make a decision after 3 or 4 contacts, I let them go temporarily. They went to the bottom of my list. I kept them as customers. And when I would call them back for product, I would just say, you know, I still think you'd be great in Mary Kay. Let me know when you're ready. Then I moved somebody else into that top 5, and I worked that list. You need to know when to let go. Because if you keep pursuing them, and then you've given them all the information, and you keep pursuing them, they're going to quit buying the product from you because they're not ready. But keep in contact, put them at the bottom of your list, bring somebody else up. So I debuted with 65 people in my unit. And of those 65, what you need to know is that 37 or 38 of them I recruited myself. And that's how it works, doesn't it? You can't expect your people to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. And they'll follow along because you're the one that's setting the example. You have to have a guest at every meeting, at least one, probably 2 or 3. And you're the one that sets the pace for your unit. And they will follow along. And I knew I wanted to be a national, so what I did, we were talking about this earlier, what I did was I looked for people who wanted to be directors. And I helped them to develop into that position. They had to want it. You can't force anybody into that, can you? You really can't. I worked hard for 5 years. Can you take 5 years out of your life and really hit it? You really do have to do that. Take 5 years. Really put every effort into your business. It's like that story of priming the pump. When you first get started in Mary Kay, if your goal is big and you want to be a national sales director, you have to prime the pump. You have to pump and pump and pump and pump. And work and work and work and work. And then once you get it rolling, you just keep a steady pressure on the pump. And that's exactly what happens. Where else can you have a business where you work for 5 or 6 years really hard and then you can enjoy the benefits for the rest of your life? All those people that bought Mary Kay product from me 30 years ago, I'm not selling Mary Kay anymore, but they're still buying it from the consultants and directors in the Sioux City area. All those people who became beauty consultants all those years ago, I'm not recruiting and training anymore, but the directors in that area have those people in their units. So if you can only see that big picture of the future and how you can work really hard temporarily and reap the benefits forever. I'm retired. I'm still reaping the benefits of this business. As a Mary Kay National Sales Director, you have to retire when you reach a certain age. Now, Mary Kay always said, any woman that'll tell her age will tell anything. So we never told anybody how old we were. We never talked about age. And then they put in the retirement program. And that meant when you became a certain age, you had to retire. So nobody would ever ask you how old you were. They would just say, so what year do you retire? They still do, don't they? So when you're 65, you become an emeritus. They call it an emeritus, but you're retired. It's kind of hard at first. It's nice later, but at first, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just done. You know, it's tough. And it's tough for your people, too. That's why this is so great, to have us all together. Because we were all one group at one time. We were all either in the Shirley Hutton area, or the Nancy Tejan area, or my area. Then, of course, Maureen Letta became a national sales director. And Maureen Myers became a national sales director. Jan Harris was our first Offspring national sales director. And she has Stacy James and Julie Kresbach, and Deb Pike, and who am I missing? Anybody? Stacy's Offspring, Mary Pat. Yeah, so that's our family history. That's our lineage. That's where it all comes from. So if you don't really know me and you hear your director talking about me or your national, at least now you know where I am in that placement, where that all comes from, and where we started from with Nancy Tejan all those many years ago. It's pretty terrific. When I retired in 2005, my income was close to $500,000 a year. Now, I just barely graduated from high school, because back then, in the late 50s, not many girls went to college. And I thought George was the best, you know, I still do. And so we got married right away. We've been married for a long time. But you know anybody with that kind of background that can achieve this kind of success that isn't in Mary Kay? Of course you don't. It just doesn't happen. It's an equal opportunity. Mary Kay is a true equal opportunity. But it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. And you can't stop working once you become a director. You have to work even harder once you become a director. You do. But you know, it's going to be worth it. So now I'm retired. We have a beautiful big house in Arizona. Can't wait for leadership to be back in Arizona again so we can do something at my house. Because if I didn't have that house, you know, I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for each and every one of you. Even though you don't know me, you still have a part of that lifestyle. So now, as a retiree, I think my income's about $250 a year. Not bad. Not bad. It's a lot better. $250,000, not $250,000. It's a lot better than Social Security. How do you live on Social Security? I mean, I won't even be around when most of you become that age. So this is security. What we have in Mary Kay is security. Nobody can ever fire you. You have control of your future. You need to think big enough and to realize that you do deserve that kind of success. You have the vehicle. You have the opportunity. You just have to put it into gear. And you can have anything you want. It's a wonderful lifestyle. And I'm just so happy that people still want me to be here. That you still want me at these things. Our national directors. They are my sisters for sure. Each and every one of you are, but they really are. The best girlfriends in all of the whole world. So I think I've talked long enough. As you can tell, my voice is leaving me. And I just want to thank you for being here.